to pause for just a moment. There we go.
Thanks, Joanne.
We do have the recording going now. Thank you so much, Sandy, for checking that out and reminding me. I do apologize to everybody that I had not recorded this. And the reason why we are recording is there are a few women that signed up and then unfortunately are unable to come tonight. And I said that I would be sending them the recording. I will not be just making this general public. This, just will be for the people that want to be here. So I'll pick up where I left off and sharing just the last little bit of my story here is that what I found is that when I really looked myself in the mirror and said, okay, you have all this knowledge, you have all this training that you share with other people. You take care of your kids and, I've taken care of my mom and, take care of my spouse. And I kept forgetting I need to take care of myself. And when this came to a head with menopause and I gained the weight and I was bloated and I was feeling miserable, it was like, I need to take action. And so the action I took was to draw on my knowledge and apply it to myself. And where I didn't have the knowledge was in the area of eating and weight gain at the time, because I thought I did. Anyone else? I'm sure you're out there too. Does anyone else feel like I eat healthy? Why the hell is this happening to me? Yeah. So that was me, right? I was eating healthy. I was eating all the bits. So I'm going to address that a little bit. I talk a little later on about the difference between a tactic and a strategy or pieces of the puzzle versus the whole picture. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more, but let's get us on the same page. I recognize that many of us come with a lot of knowledge, but I want to make sure that we're all using similar terminologies. So why don't we start off first with menopause terms? And I had this conversation, was it Sandy? I had this conversation with you the other day. So there's actually 4 terms that kind of get tossed around and there's a bit of blurring of the lines, but for the purposes of today is we have actually what's known as pre-menopause. And pre-menopause are the productive years. It's when our ovaries and all our eggs are super healthy and they're popping out once a month the way they're supposed to be. And that is kind of our fertile time of life. And it's before any symptoms and perimenopause starts. Then we go into perimenopause. Now, this is that really interesting stage. It's around menopause, and it is the transitional years leading up to menopause when women experience hormonal fluctuations. And here's what's lovely about it is it can last anywhere from 2 to 10 years. In fact, it can actually start as young as 35, which is pretty brutal for some people. The average age to actually go through menopause is about 51. And of course, average means some much later, some much earlier. And then we get menopause, because people are like, what's the difference between menopause and postmenopause? So the way we talk about that is menopause is when the cessation of a woman's period after 12 consecutive months. So people often talk about being in menopause when they've progressed past the perimenopause, where it's just all over the place, to I haven't had a period in months, but you're not fully considered hit menopause until you've had 12 consecutive months. So that means if you've gone 6 months and then you start having your period again, then you got to start all over. That was just one big window. But once you hit that 12 months, you're considered that you've hit menopause, and then pretty much everything after that is post-menopause. But oh joy, the menopausal symptoms that we're going to talk about a bit can actually still last for years after you've reached menopause, as they say. And I must admit, kind of in just sort of people chatting, they often talk about post-menopause more after all the symptoms have stopped, if that makes sense. So terminology gets a little bit wonky in this area, but I hope that explains things a bit, that there's fluctuations in hormones, and then it tapers off, and luckily things get better later on. So just to mention some of the symptoms, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, in perimenopause, this is actually when the hormone progesterone, because we have progesterone and estrogen, which I'm sure we all, if we remember from health class, that they work in conjunction, and one goes up while one goes down throughout our menstrual cycles, and they keep us going. What happens in perimenopause is that you get an imbalance in the two. And perimenopause really starts with, people always think of estrogen, but perimenopause actually is when the progesterone starts to drop down a bit. And you get things like more irregular menstrual cycle, you can get breast tenderness, you get that brain fog happening. I see a few heads nodding, insomnia, weight gain, what we're mostly going to talk about tonight, some hot flashes, mood swings, heart palpitations. That is one of the biggest things that impact me. In fact, I won't go into the whole stories now, but believe me, I had them so bad. I was rushed to hospital in an ambulance several times because we just couldn't get my heart under control. And I just wasn't given the support I needed once I got there, which was unfortunate. And I don't want other people to be going through that. But then when we get into more menopause, closer to when the period is stopping, we get that bloating, again, more weight gain. We get like the night sweats, we get more dry skin, not just dry skin, dry eyes, dry vagina, dry everything, right? Do you hear me? Which then also plays into low libido. You can get vaginal itching, you start to get facial hair. And this is when the estrogen starts to come down. So lots of joyful, out of whack hormones. So hormones, what are hormones? Hormones are a substance. They're within our body. They are the chemical messengers. They kind of run all over our body and tell our body what to do. What's shocking to a lot of people, because most people, if I were to say, name a bunch of hormones, what do we have? Progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, like maybe you might come up with cortisol. What else, like adrenaline, I think most people can come up with between 5 and 10. Would that be accurate? Yeah. See a few nodding heads. There is over 50 named hormones, and they're discovering them as we go along. Because you have one hormone that turns something on, and other hormones turn something off. This one goes sideways, that one flips upside down. And picture in your mind dominoes. You can literally tip one of them out of balance, and it sends a cascade of issues. I'm just going to let someone in here. A whole cascade of issues throughout your body. And that's what starts to goes on with menopause. And that is why, like, for all the people that were nodding their heads saying, I'm still exercising, I'm eating the way I was, why am I suddenly going like that? Well, it's because your body internally has changed, which means our lifestyle has to change. The question is how and what's the best. So just looking at, I think most of us understand that with hormones, they control sleep, blood pressure, growth, temperature regulations, bone health, libido, fat burn, motivation, you name it, hormones play a part of it. So the main reason for what I call menopause madness and the weight gain is the hormone imbalance. Right? When we don't have, especially when there's a widening gap between progesterone and estrogen, and we can run into something called estrogen dominance. Some of these things are what really contribute to our weight gain. So 5 of the hormonal changes that go on within menopause include what I mentioned before, changes in progesterone, estrogen, and sometimes people go into estrogen dominance, means the balance between estrogen and progesterone is out of whack. And there's actually a ratio, but that's more detail than what we'll go into tonight. But that's what it's talking about if you ever hear somebody has estrogen dominance. But there is hope. Also, very naturally is, as we're in menopause, our cholesterol goes up. Now, this is a stress hormone. And I just want to put out there that hormones have more than one role. Sometimes we label something, sometimes the same hormone that is used that we think of as bad is also good in a different way. So the better way to think of a hormone is an ingredient. Like when you're baking in your kitchen, you can use the same ingredient for a whole bunch of different recipes. But predominantly, we think of cholesterol as a stress hormone. It's a response to a stressor. And like most things, a little bit is good, a lot is not. And so the same with insulin, leptin, and thyroid hormones. So I'll mention a little bit about what's going on. When you have cholesterol, if we have, now cholesterol, if we're in that fight or flight and we're needing to run from the saber-toothed tiger, having an increased cholesterol, not cholesterol, oh my goodness, I'm getting tongue-tied here, cortisol, it allows us to have that burst of energy we need. Our cortisol levels go up in the morning because it needs to wake us up, or else we'd stay asleep. So it's actually very vital element within our body. But when we don't allow our bodies to go back into resting, back into rest and digest, and we stay in that fight or flight running from the saber-toothed tiger, then what we get is all the negative effects that go on. So think of you're walking, you're turning on your taps to wash the dishes. Turning on the taps is good. We have water. We have water to wash the dishes. That's good. What if we left that tap on and never shut it off? Now what do we have? Now we have a flood in our kitchen and we have water damage. So this is a good way to think of hormones. It's not that people ask what's good and bad. There is no good or bad. It's the volume or the amount of hormones going on in your system. So high cholesterol or high cortisol can cause some high cholesterol. It causes visceral fat buildup, and I'll explain what visceral fat is, but it causes a whole cascade of negative impact on our body when we have high stress levels going on. Insulin. So insulin is that magic key that takes energy, food energy, and gets it into the cells so that we have energy. We can burn it and we can use it. And then we have this really interesting concept of insulin resistance. At some point in time, the body goes, okay, that's enough. Insulin, you have to stop working. All the extra we're going to put on as fat. Sounds bad, but it's actually not. This is what has saved us over the centuries or thousands of years, really, so that we don't die of starvation. We need to build some fat up in our body. So it's a good thing. But again, too much of it is a bad thing. And then we get into leptin. Leptin is that hormone that lets us know that we are, hold on a second, I just want to see. No, sorry. Leptin is that hormone that tells us we're full, right? It's kind of the put the fork down, I'm full. Again, a little bit is good, too much is bad. When we end up having too much leptin in our system, which can happen, especially when we have too much weight and too much fat and too much visceral fat, because visceral fat, and I'll talk about that in a moment, actually is metabolically active. If we have too much, you would think logically that it would be like, oh, I'm not going to be hungry at all. When the opposite happens is that too much means that it goes through its own burnout and the receptors start going, I'm not listening to you. You're not telling me the truth anymore. And so we have too high levels and it doesn't work anymore. So that's not a good thing. And then hormones that are part of our thyroid is something that's important to be monitored by your health professional, because they naturally can start to come down in this time of life, causing fatigue and muscle weakness and so forth. So we want to support that, and we can do that in many ways. Sorry, let's find our next little slide. But first of all, I was talking about fat and buildup. Let's make sure that we're still on the same page for all of this as well. So fat is, you can look up types of fat and you will find all different numbers of how much different fat and so forth. So I want to clarify that fat is classified by its color and then by location. So sometimes people say, oh, there's this fat and this fat, when it's actually the same kind of fat in a different location, if that makes sense to you. So the colors actually range from white, beige, and gray. There's a lot of research going on around beige, but for the purposes of tonight, white fat is that fat, the muffin top. It's kind of, mostly the fat that's around your body. White fat is the most prevalent. It collects, stores, and releases lipids, which is energy, and it's also cushioning. And then we have brown fat, and brown fat is located in our shoulders and our neck. That's baby fat. And what's interesting, even though it's a fat, it actually burns energy. So there's a tremendous amount of research going on can we brown off white fat, right? And there is a process. There's some really cool biohacks that can help you move white fat and have it convert over into beige and brown fat, so more energy burning. And one of those techniques are, if you ever hear of people doing like cold water plunges or baths or showers, right? It's a tactic that can be used for that. But it needs to be used in combination with a whole bunch of other things. Essential fat, when people say essential fat, that means the bare minimum of fat we need in our bodies. If we had zero fat, we'd be dead. We cannot function. Fat and fatty acids are essential for life. It's, lipid, which is fat, it is around every single cell membrane. So we need it. And you can get different numbers, but mostly what we see is that men can function with as little as 3% fat and women 12%. And that is because we all need more fat because we are the ones that reproduce youngins. Subcutaneous fat, where's that? So cutaneous is talking about skin. So it's what's under our skin. It's what is between our skin and our muscles. So you can kind of grab it. For the most part, having a little extra cuddly is not dangerous. Having too much of it puts a stress on our metabolic syndrome, our metabolic system, and can lead into things like metabolic syndrome, which I'll touch base on. But, that subcutaneous fat all around us, if we get too much of it, then that puts extra weight and stress on our joints and our legs. And it does mess up our hormone levels because fat plays a role in that. And then we get into what people call often the evil fat and the dangerous fat, which is visceral fat. Again, a small amount of visceral fat is important because it protects our vital organs inside, but people have way too much visceral fat. It gets wrapping around our organs. You've probably heard of things like fatty liver, and it provokes the inflammatory pathways, which are damaging and dangerous to our health. So this was just a quote that I read, and I thought it really summed things up, and I'll just read it for you. Abdominal fat, especially visceral fat. Sorry, just want to let somebody in here. There we go. Abdominal fat, especially visceral fat, is biochemically different and more metabolically active than fat stored in other areas. That's a mouthful. That just means it can actually help mess up our hormones. It secretes more pro-inflammatory substances. So it can cause, when we have a big abdomen, as opposed to kind of natural fat all over, you see guys with big beer bellies, or sometimes, us women, we suddenly look down and go, we look like we're pregnant. We're actually going to have a lot of inflammation in our body, which is not good. So that means preventing or reversing belly fat is not just about a vanity project. It's a meaningful step to managing a woman's overall health, as abdominal fat has been consistently linked to insulin resistance, which is pre-diabetes, impaired glucose control, getting into diabetes, and overall a higher risk of cardiometabolic, so cardiovascular issues, heart issues, and even breast cancer. Effective management is multifaceted, and that's really important what I'm talking about today. It's not just about picking one thing and saying, oh, this is what's going to make me healthy now. So to tame your hormones, lose weight, and increase your energy, the key hormone that I said you might be surprised about is actually insulin, followed closely by cortisol. So what happens when you have elevated insulin? The list is quite extensive. Insulin is, remember when I said you can line up all the dominoes and you hit one over and there we go? Insulin is that cornerstone. It is something that we can actually have an impact on, and it is what it can impact blood pressure and our fats and fatigue and depression and sugar cravings and water retention, and the list goes on. Just taking a look at it here, that when we have elevated insulin, these things are an indication that that could be the cause. But it's really hard for people to tell they have elevated insulin, right? So first of all, let's take a look at what should you do about it. I believe that the first thing is to overcome an old belief that once our hormones change in menopause, that's it, there's no hope. I'm just going to have a big fat belly and I'm never going to be able to lose weight. And this is absolutely false. What is true is that taking action to modify cholesterol and insulin can have a positive impact. So why don't we take a look at what are some of the most important actions? But first, let's even first find out whether or not you might have increased insulin. So I'm just going to take a moment to explain, just in case someone doesn't quite understand the mechanism of insulin. So in a nutshell, is every time we eat, our sugar levels go up, right? We ingest food, so that makes sugar, and we want that because we need the energy in our body. But the only way it gets into our system is with insulin, and insulin wants to keep sugar levels at a fairly steady level. So when everything's healthy, picture your sugar goes up. I don't know, can people see actually me? Because I talk with my hands a lot. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that you can see the screen and me. If not, then picture I'm lifting one hand up to be the sugar levels and the other hand to be your insulin levels. As your sugar level goes up, your insulin goes with it. And it might just take, I say it's a bit like the parole officer of sugar. So when you're all healthy, it might just be a phone call going, how's things going? Okay, yeah, you can digest all of that sugar we just took in. And when I say sugar, I mean sugar, like basically every single carbohydrate that we eat, no matter what it is, gets broken down into sugar. It has to, because that's the only thing that our bodies can use. If it's protein, it gets broken down into amino acid, and then it gets fats is fatty chains. So what happens when you constantly have high sugar levels or it never resets itself? What starts to happen is a little phone call from the parole officer isn't working. Now you need the person to show up in, you need the insulin, more amount of insulin to get the sugar down to the same level. And then if you keep going on and there's never a break and the sugars just keep going up, then you need even more insulin to keep the sugar under control. So you might go for blood tests and it's like, oh, my sugars are fine. The question is your insulin fine? And the way to check this, that where you don't need, fancy things, is you get out a tape measure and you look at what size your waist is. And it really doesn't matter how tall you are. It's about the same. If your waist is 35 inches or more as a woman, you're pretty much guaranteed you have some insulin resistance going on. And for a man, that's 40 inches. So I believe that there are 3 keys that we need to look at to bring things under control. This has to be comprehensive. And the first thing is, what are you putting in your body? How are you optimizing your mind? And what are you doing to relieve stress and enliven your spirit? So it's basically like a body, mind, and soul. And when I talk about what are you putting in your body, I'm talking about the food that you're eating, the water you're drinking, but also what are you absorbing through your skin? Are you using products that have some toxins or chemicals that seem nice? It's pretty fragrance, but really it's putting a stress on your body, because that will also impact whether or not you can lose weight, because our bodies actually put fat around these toxins to protect us. So we want to reduce the overall toxic load of our bodies. I also, under this, what are you putting in your body, like to look at with my clients, how are you breathing? What are you inhaling? How are you breathing? How are you getting the oxygen in? Are you breathing in a way that's causing you stress, or are you breathing in a way that's having you relax? Are you breathing fragrances? Are they pure? Are they supportive, or are they toxic in your system? How are you optimizing your mind? Are you following old beliefs like I did at first, that, oh, once I hit menopause, like I just have to suffer through all this and I really can't do anything for myself? That's something that I always look at with my clients. And also, what are you doing to take your stress down? We talked about cortisol. Cortisol rises with stress. We can't always take our stressors away, but we can certainly learn to have our body have a different response so that it can go back into rest and digest. And all of these have to happen at the same time. If we look at just one of them, we're not going to have success with our health journey. Alrighty. So I believe that ultimately what you need is a comprehensive, holistic program that will support you to have a balanced blood sugar level, to stabilize insulin levels, to reduce inflammation. Oh, look, I just found a spelling mistake. Stabilize your circadian rhythms with rejuvenating sleep. I just saw a few eyes glaze over, people going, what do you mean sleep in menopause, right? Like, who's sleeping? Believe me, it is possible to sleep even when you're in these menopause mayhem years. Practicing stress management and relaxation techniques that are effective and easy to do and something that you will engage in. I believe it's so important that whatever program you're doing also is encouraging you to take part in joyful activity and exercise. It's not like exercise and activity should not be drudgery. It should be something that fills you up and brings you joy. And also there is always looking at unhealthy habits such as smoking, excessive alcohol. I'm not saying no alcohol. I like my glass of wine as much as the next girl. And worry, something like worry is actually a habit. It's something we get addicted to just as bad as smoking. So I mentioned before that I wanted to talk about tactic versus strategy. So quite often I hear women say, oh, I'm doing everything I can. And I heard that my neighbor's friend's sister ate grapefruit before every meal and that worked for her. And then I heard that my mother's aunt's sister, was having raspberry tea or whatever it is that's going on. Or I've been hearing lots about fasting and how does that work? But there's so many types of ways. So each one of those, I would say, is a tactic. It's one little aspect, but it's not a whole strategy, right? When we want to be successful with our weight loss and taming our hormones and increasing our energy, we need to fit all the puzzle pieces together. So maybe another way of looking at it is the puzzle pieces. Picture you've heard that things are really good to do, but when you pick piecemeal, it's a bit like choosing a puzzle piece out of one box and then another puzzle piece out of another box and another puzzle piece out of another box, and you're not looking at the whole picture. And that picture also might not be for you. I believe that whatever you're doing needs to be an individual plan for you because we are not all the same. And that's one of the problems that's out there is there's so many cookie cutters. This is what you need to do to be healthy. And it may have some merit and conceptually be good, but is it actually right for you? If it's not individualized, it may not be. It may not be effective. And I think that's why so many of us were nodding our heads going, I'm eating what they're telling me and I'm doing all the things that are supposed to be good and it's still not working. And I believe it's because we're taking pieces from different boxes and we're trying to put it together and we don't have our own vision. We need a vision that's just for us. So what's the solution? So for me, and I'm sharing from my experience and what I have put together because of my experience and because of my education, this is what I've put together and I know works for me. And so I'm going to share what I use and so that people can, make a decision in their own mind, whether or not this might be something that would be supportive for them. So a comprehensive holistic program with what I call bio-individual eating plan as its core element, I personally have chosen metabolic balance. And I aligned myself with that as a nurse because I wanted something that I knew was science-backed. And also, I don't like eating lots of bars and shakes and puddings and all of that. I wanted something that was based on whole foods and what will support me that way. Sorry, my There we go. I just had to move everyone's beautiful faces along the bottom here so I can read this. So metabolic balance was designed by a German cardiologist to treat some of the sickest patients with metabolic syndrome. I mentioned that before. And metabolic syndrome is when people's metabolism gets so out of whack, and often due to obesity, or it's hormones are out of whack, then they pack on the fat, and then the fat then causes more hormone imbalances. It really is a which came first, the chicken or the egg. So there's elevated sugar levels, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, overweight. And this really puts people at higher risk for heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and a multitude of other illnesses that can be quite disconcerting. And we as women, as we enter menopause, we become more at risk. Doesn't mean it's inevitable, because I believe we can always take action. And wherever we can take action, I believe we should. So this plan is designed just for you. It's based on your biochemistry. It's actually based on a blood test so that it is individualized for you. There's no pills, there's no supplements, there's no, I got pills in there twice, my apologies. And, you get rid of the cravings. It's just based on delicious food. What we really do when I work with my clients is that I help people create a whole new relationship with food. That's what happened to me. I want somebody, like personally for me, I don't want to look down at my food and count numbers. I don't want to be going points and adding it all up. Like, to me, that's not enjoyable. I want to be able to look at the food and understand this is the right proportion for me. And this is the right sort of proportion between my protein and my vegetables, and what carbohydrates can I handle. And I want to look at it and smell it and just, drink in with all of my senses. This is delicious food to eat, and it is nourishing me to my highest good. Plus, I like to have a glass of wine once in a while, and I like to have pizza with, every once in a while, but those naturally become exclamation marks as opposed to our habit, because we are so on this fast treadmill of everything's fast food and processed, and we are literally killing ourselves because of that. So an example, metabolic balance has actually 4 different phases that I lead my clients through. So it gives people a structure. It includes a preparatory phase. It includes a weight loss phase. The third phase that I think is so important is that it is a transitional phase back to maintenance, where we actually explore what foods you should reintroduce that you can tolerate and they don't bother you. Because in the weight loss phase, we're giving you what are your ideal foods. It's like, picture a dartboard and you are now hitting bullseyes every single time. And then we transition back to going, okay, we want you to eat a whole array of food, no restrictions at all, but it's based on what you tolerate well within your system. And then maintenance is more, keep following as many of these rules as possible, and you will maintain. Most weight loss programs, I was shocked to learn there's actually a World Health criteria that determines how effective a weight loss program is, or a health eating program. And they look at how many people that engaged in this program after a year have still maintained 5% or more of their body weight removed. Most eating plans that are out there, their success rate is 25%. And then people go into the yo-yo diet, right? Nod your head if you know what the yo-yo diet is. You lost the weight and then you gain the weight right back, and you gain 5, 10, 20 pounds extra. There is, if somebody really loves the science behind all this, we can get that for you. It is called the yo-yo syndrome, basically the yo-yo diet. And it is because when we lose, and we do it only on depleting ourselves of calories, we not only lose fat, we also lose protein. If we're not doing it balanced and we're not balancing out the hormones, then when we start to eat normally, our body has a muscle memory, and it literally overeats till it gets back to where it was before, which usually ends up being that people have gained more weight. I personally am happy to say that when I engaged in this program over 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I've lost a total of 30 pounds, and I've stayed within up or down 5 pounds, even around Christmas time, of that weight loss. I've never regained that weight again, which is amazing. And none of my clients have either. So I wanted to share a little bit about the 8 simple rules, because these rules are all based. And when I work with my clients, I explain the rationale behind it, but they're simple. They're like going back to basics, eating 3 meals a day, eating an apple a day. How much water do you want to be drinking? Water is hugely important. When you are releasing fat, you're releasing toxins, you're releasing fat. We have metabolic waste. Every thought we have is a chemical process, and there's always metabolic waste. And we need to sleep well to flush this out of our system, and we need to drink our water because we need to flush it all out of our system. A blank one. Now, at this point, I'm going to share just a couple testimonials of ladies who have been through the program. Now, Barb is a friend of mine. We've been friends for 25 years or so. I moved in on the street when my middle daughter was just a baby. She wrote me this, like, literally a beautiful story of her journey. And I've taken this one excerpt. And she came to me saying, Joanne, I have always been an athlete, and I feel like all I've done since I raised I know her comment actually was, Joanne, I haven't lost my baby fat, and my youngest child is 23 now. That's the way she put it. And she was frustrated because she was an athlete, and she goes, I want to get back to feeling athletic, and I've done everything for everybody else. I want to engage in this now. And she's a science teacher, so very science-based. And she goes, and her youngest is, not her youngest, but one of her children actually has type 1 diabetes. So she's very knowledgeable. And she goes, why can't I make this work? And so her comment was, within the first month, I lost 15 pounds. But more importantly, I noticed other changes. I was having better sleeps. My hot flashes were gone. My knees no longer were sore. My belly bloat was disappearing. Joanne was just a phone call away if I had any questions. And yes, being a science nerd, I kept her on her toes with all of my whys. And boy, did she ever. And what I loved is, all the rationale of what we were doing passed the test with this beautiful soul. And to this day, she is having so much fun. In fact, for a special birthday last year, she bought herself this really cool convertible, and she's bombing all around the place. I was so proud of her. And then I have an excerpt from a testimonial that Mona, who is on this call, and in just a couple of minutes when I stop sharing, I'm going to ask Mona if you can share a little bit about your own personal experience. And I was really touched when she sent me this, saying, with Joanne's expert coaching, I embarked on the MV program, and within 2 weeks, my digestion had improved 90%. Mona came to me, not necessarily, it's not that she didn't want to lose weight, but that wasn't her goal. She was coming because with all of her knowledge, she still couldn't get things under control. And she goes, Joanne expertly coached me through it all, and I now feel much, much better. And the bonus is that I've lost 16 pounds. That was partway through the program, and haven't been this small in over 20 years. And I look and feel fabulous. And she really does look fabulous. And that brings us to the conclusion of this presentation. I will be able to send, I think you all would have my email. Most of you have come to me based on getting an email. But before we sign off, oh no, I want to invite everyone to book in for what I call a fabulous fresh start roadmap. It's a free consultation for anyone who is serious about wanting the change. Tonight's purpose was to be inspirational, to educate, and to empower. And so I hope you feel like you're walking away empowered. And some of you will have got your nugget and you're off and running, and that's great. But I also know that there's going to be some of you that go, sign me up now. This is exactly what I need. And so I want to make sure that it's a really good fit. And so I've opened up my calendar over the next few days, and it is completely no obligation. You can sign in, and what we'll do is look at where you are, where do you want to be, and whether or not we feel this is a good fit to get you there. And if it is, fantastic. And if it's not, you have my commitment that I will rack my brain. I'm well connected all over the city. If there's something else that I feel would support you more, then I'll be recommending that, because really what I do within the Fabulous Health and the Fabulous at 50 is a labor of passion and love. I mean, obviously I do it as my livelihood, but I can go and work at the hospital as a nurse. I'm doing this and sinking my heart and soul into it because I believe in it, because it made a difference in my life, and because I see the difference that's made in the women that I work with all the time. So thank you. Now, can I, just for a second, I'm going to open the floor up. We have a good 10 minutes before we're winding up on the hour. I'm going to open the floor up for any questions, but I'm going to bring Mona up. If you want to take the stage for a minute, Mona, and unmute and just share a little bit of your journey.
Yes. I'm somebody who believes in the power of positive thought and willing into your life what you need. And I was at a crossroads last summer where I had digestion problems caused by menopause and hormonal imbalances for years, and it had culminated in a really serious situation where I could hardly eat anything. My digestion was so bad, and I literally asked the universe to send me help. I did, and it came in the form of my new neighbor, Joanne Newenduk. We ended up meeting by chance because I'm a chatty Cathy, and I met her neighbor, and her neighbor introduced me to her. And I went on her program, and within a week and a half, I had improved the digestion by 90%. I was somebody who was like, because I had been dealing with digestion problems for so long, I was already very, very, very strict on my diet. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't eat wheat, I barely had sugar in my diet, and I am a very active person and exercise, and I still could not get healthy. And I was wondering what it is that made this so successful. And it's because of that, it's based on your blood test. And also it's that reset. There's a reset at the beginning of the diet that I believe is what my body needed. And some of the rules that they have you follow, like the one where you don't eat in between 5 hours, like you have to eat only every 5 hours. I thought there is no way in honor that I could do that. And now
I thought the same thing.
It's like, I completely forget about it. I don't need to snack. It saves me money because I don't have to buy snacks. The only time I do break that is I'm very active with sports and stuff, is if I do, if I didn't eat enough protein in the meal before my sports, then I might need to eat a little bit after I play pickleball or golf or whatever.
Amazing.
But anyway, it's a good way of life, and I'm still on it. And still on it. I followed the rules very well, and I achieved my goal in November last year. We're June now. I have gained 5 pounds, but the measurements of my body have not changed. I've actually gotten a little smaller because I've gotten more and more and more physically active, and I've did some muscle strengthening and muscles way more.
So what we're saying is, like, when you look at fat, three pounds of fat is about this big, 3 pounds of muscle is about this big. So you're shifting your body composition. So thank you so much, Mona. It's been such a joy to work with you. And I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes it's not, sometimes it's about looking in the mirror and going, you know, I don't really like what I see, but a lot of times it's, I just want to be healthier. And what I really love is, and what I encourage anyone I work with to do, is to actually look in the mirror and say, I love you. And I love you enough to do what it takes to make you healthy. That's what I had to do. It wasn't about because I don't love you, because I'm overweight or anything like that. It really was more about, I'm going to do what I need to make myself healthy. Now, that aside, that's just to share what are options that we can do. I just put my name and phone number and email down in, and I'll be honest, I had a bit of a technical issue with my booking link today, so I cannot share that with you. So if anyone would like to further this conversation beyond the education today, and you want to learn more about it, or you're potentially interested in engaging in this, then send me a text, send me an email. And also I will be sending out a link in the next little while. So one of the questions was, are snacks allowed? So that's getting into the nitty gritty. I would say it all depends on you and your system. Typically, what we will find is the goal is to have 3 meals a day during the weight loss process part and the metabolic reset. And the reason why is because it takes 5 hours for your insulin levels to stabilize. So every time, and maybe I should stress this during it, every time you snack to sort of bump your sugar levels up, you turn your insulin on, and when insulin is on, fat burn is off. So it's very difficult to lose weight if you're snacking. That actually is one of the old myths of that grazing all the time is not actually very helpful for losing weight and balancing hormones out. It actually gets us addicted to being on sugar, shall we say. And I don't necessarily mean you're eating donuts. I'm not going to insult that. It can just be any food. Yeah. I'm going to open up the floor if anyone has some specific questions. And Nola and Sandy, if you can scan the chat and just see if there's any other questions. I don't want to miss any in there. Do I have any questions?
No, none right now, other than the snacks. Snacks are important.
Snacks are important. Okay. No, I have a question. They're coming in privately. That's
okay. Cool. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, 2 or 3 questions. I'll get to them all here. So one of them is read different types of protein. Was there an earlier question? Was there like a full question for that? So I'll just talk about different types of protein in general. Is obviously protein is really important, and the whole wide range. Like within this plan, when somebody decides to do this plan, we actually sit down and go through a health consultation, and then we go through and make sure that if there's any allergies or if there's something that you don't like, it's taken off and the plan is still generated so that you get the ingredients you need for you. Like if somebody absolutely doesn't like chicken or doesn't like a beef or something like that, you can do that. But ideally, our bodies actually like variety. So it's nice to have a wide variety, and everybody's plan is different. There's some commonalities, but everybody's plan is different. So, oh yeah, if somebody's saying like, if you know that you have an intolerance to dairy, like very few people ever, have just straight cow's milk dairy put on it. But if you have an intolerance to that, then that's not included. As I said, it's not a cookie cutter. Okay, Josephine has her hand up. Hello. You can unmute and ask your question, Josephine. Oh, she's put the question in here. Intermittent fasting. So fasting is getting into a whole nother conversation, but in essence, oh, I think Josephine looks like she's trying to log on again. Are you good? Can you hear me, Josephine? Okay, because I saw her audio go off. Okay, so intermittent fasting, there's all different types of fasting, and that can range from how long you go at night until breakfast the next day. Some people are going, like women have to be careful with fasting levels, because if we go too long, we actually mess our hormone levels up unless it's done. But fasting from like not eating past 9 o'clock at night and going until breakfast, that's considered a fast, because guess what? We call it break, fast, breakfast. That's what it's all about. We're breaking the fast. And so we want a length of time for our body to go into rest and digest and repair. And it needs to do that. And if it's digesting food, it's not doing the rest and digest and the repair. So we want our things to balance out. Same during the day when we eat. And what I find is that people, if they're just eating their usual way, like I did, I could not go 5 hours. The minute I followed exactly what I was told on my menu, like this amount of protein, this, from my vegetable pile and this from my other, I was shocked, just like Mona, going, I'm not hungry. Why am I making it between meals? And that allows the hormone of insulin to reset, but it's not just insulin, it's insulin and the cascade of all those other domino hormones that need to reset. and sleep improves. Joint pain goes down, right? Because we're reducing all the inflammation in our body, and most of the joint pain that we get is from inflammation. And libido goes up, which is kind of a nice thing. And one of the gals that I have in my program right now, she sent me this message and it was so cute. She goes, I had 2 hot flashes today. And at first I'm like, is that good or bad? Like I actually, because I didn't know right off the top of my head, like, remind me how many hot flashes you usually get. And she says 10. Usually she gets 10 a day. And within the first 4 days of being on the program, she had gone down to 2 a day. Like that's life transforming. She's not sweating in front of, everyone at work all the time. I have, is protein oh yeah, that's what they're saying. Someone's asking, is meat the only protein? Absolutely not. There's meat as in red meats, there's poultry, there's fish, there's legumes, there's beans, there's mushrooms, there's eggs, whole wide range of protein sources. What about someone with IBS? So people with IBS and different things, I actually believe that I was never officially diagnosed, but I went through, prior to doing this, 3 to 4 years of swinging all over the place. I could eat something and I was set right off. I believe that that's what I had, and it's what corrected. I have another gal, the coach that actually supported me. I went through this program first, corrected myself, and then I went and trained. You can only train as a metabolic balance coach if you're a healthcare professional in some capacity. So I trained after I knew it was successful for me. And my coach actually had Crohn's, and she became a nutritionist to try and solve her own issues. Still didn't work. She was in the washroom at least 16 times a day. Can you imagine how debilitating that is? And she went down to this day, she's probably 2-3 times a day. Like really life-changing on those things. How soon after a blood test can a plan be done? So the general, if people are interested, the general way that we go through the program, because my program is, I have, first of all, I'll back up the bus. I have several ways of supporting people through their health journey. The core element for a couple of the programs is metabolic balance. So if we just take that one core element out of the bigger program, then there would be a blood test, and that takes a couple days to come back. And then we would have a health consultation where we'd apply for the actual plan because it's being submitted to the head office. And then we would meet shortly after. So from blood test to having a plan can be like a week. It all depends on, it can be anywhere from 4 days, I guess, would be a real rush. That would be the stars align and we both have time that we can meet. But usually I say allow 1 to 2 weeks so that we can line up our appointments and people don't feel rushed. I actually find that clients that choose to give a couple weeks grace where they commit and they say, I want to get started. And what we do is we get them working on incorporating the 8 rules. And then they get their blood test. And then so it's not trying to do everything at once. It's much better to incorporate that. And then people that do that get the blood test and then get their specific foods that are best for them. Then they continue on from there. And I find them highly successful. Do I have any other questions in there? Did I miss any? Somebody also asked for the price. So again, it would be important for me to talk to people, but I'll let you know that literally it could be as little as 1 consultation fee, if that's all you need, and to set you up maybe with the rules or some guidance, to somebody engaged in the full program that would be several $100s kind of broken out over months. Whoops. Sandy, you've let her in. Okay, good. What's typical length of the program? Okay, so for that, again, I'd invite you to come in and we can find out what one is good for you. I am finding that the most common choice for people is the 4-month program. And so I would highly recommend that we book in, and then I can go through the details on whether or not that is the best one for you. And then I can share all of that. So I can give you a range right now, but everybody's individual. So I wouldn't want to say this is how much it costs, because that might not be actually what your needs are. Yeah. Let me see. Sandy's put my name, and honestly, if you know how to text, texting me is one of the easiest ways and best ways to get in touch with me, and just say, hi, put your full name down. I was on the call. I want a consultation, and you and I will pick a mutually good time. You can also email if texting, because I do know there's people in my community that only have landlines and they don't like to text, and that's fine. We can email. Yeah. I saw somebody just go, what? I know, that's kind of how I feel sometimes, because I've embraced texting and I love it. I used to make a joke that it's almost like somebody left me a voicemail. What are they doing that for? I do listen to voicemails as well. I'm happy for voicemails. Hey, are you guys willing to play along for just a minute? I created a couple polls. I decided not to use them in the talk because I like to just talk to people, but I'd love to the people that are here, I'd love to see your responses to a couple things. So when I launch this, you'll see something come up and then you just click your answers. So I'm launching one can you see it? Is it on your screen? I'm curious whether or not you heard about tonight on social media or from my email or from a friend. And you might have heard both even. Excellent. Let's see. Are we all in? We're voted. Oh no, we've got some more votes coming in. And the tally is in. Sandy, are you capturing that? Here.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm going to end that one. Here, I'm going to share the results. So most people heard from the email. I'm happy for that, and caught it on social media, and yay, referred by a friend, like yay to your friend. You know what that tells me? If a friend invited you, it means they really, really care about you. And I think that's awesome. I think that's wonderful. All right, couple more, because I was having fun playing with the poll. So you have to just sort of hold on, stop sharing first. And my next one, here we go. This one is, I'm just curious for people. Most people on here are wanting to balance hormones or do different things. But if you're wanting to lose weight, please weigh in on how much weight you're interested in losing. Okay, are we pretty much done? Okay, I'm going to end it and I'm going to share the results. So the majority of people, 60% up to about 30 pounds. And this is consistent with most people that come into the program and work with me within the main core 4 months of the metabolic balance. That is actually quite achievable. Like in that 20 to 25 pounds is very achievable within that time frame. And even a little bit higher when we get into above 60, 100, over 100 pounds, then there's a couple of different ways that we handle that. Is people can stay on the program longer in the weight loss, but up to a certain level. And then what we ask is you transition out to maintenance, just even for a few weeks. Give your body, let you really know this is what it'll be like once you fully reach your goal. And really what I want people to do is celebrate, right? We can easily get caught in, oh, I've lost 20 pounds, but I still have 40 to go, or I have 50 to go. And it's like, you want to celebrate along the way, like losing 20 pounds and releasing that from your body is massively life-changing. Like that really will make a difference on your health. And then people can go back on it. That's what's amazing. This is like a once in a lifetime investment. I mean, I'll be honest, sometimes people way down the line want to run a new program because they just want to see, I don't know, more curiosity, but literally your biochemistry is unique to you. And if you lose weight and you start to go off, like, at Christmas, a lot of us coaches do a reset every January because we go off like me, I love my Christmas cookies. And sometimes I start to go, and then I start to go, I just don't feel so great. And all I need to do is eat on point for about a week or two and I feel good again. right? Like how amazing is it to have that tool? And then I have one last poll here. I told you I was having fun with this. This is my last one. And I'm just curious as to what are people's goals? You know, what's most important to you? And you can click more than one. Oh, did I share it? I'm not seeing any results coming through. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's coming.
Suddenly came through all at once. It was like looking like it wasn't working. Excellent. Okay, I'll wait until it stops moving, keeps moving, and votes are in. Cast your ballot. Very cool. Look at these results, right? It's not just about weight loss. In fact, it's not even 100%. Like not everybody put weight loss. There are people just wanting to tame their hormones. They want to improve their health. So, Sandy, did you catch that?
I did.
You're beautiful. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. So I want to let people know that within the program is we actually, once we do the health consultation, we click off and let Metabolic Balance head office know, are you wanting to lose weight? And we say how much? Are you wanting to improve health? So maintain weight, or are you wanting to gain weight? Literally, people don't think about, oh, somebody has to gain weight. We see people that are, you know, very frail, and we don't think that they can be just as unhealthy. In fact, think about it. You could be hundreds of pounds overweight. You cannot be hundreds of pounds underweight. You'd be dead. Like literally being underweight is just as bad, if not worse. And so people sometimes come on the program and they want to gain. So I'm just letting you know that, just in case you know someone. Sometimes women that are having fertility issues, this can be used, and actually because it's helping to balance out hormones. My focus and my expertise is supporting women in menopause, but this has been this has been used to help people who are having fertility issues, are having, you know, like polycystic ovarian syndrome. I've seen it be successful in people with that, people that have type 2 diabetes. We do it with caution, but especially pre-diabetes, that's the best time to get it. But you have to we work closely with your doctor. We don't ever just go, this is what you're going to do, right? We want you to be working with your doctor. Most doctors are I've never had a doctor that's not supportive, because we know that if people that have type 2 diabetes lose weight, they can often reduce, if not fully come off some of their medications, depending on their particular illness, right? So that's a bit of a blanket statement, but there's always improvement. I've never heard a doctor say, oh, I don't want you to lose any weight and start eating healthy. Just doesn't happen. What happens though, is within our medical system, there's not an emphasis on it. And I say it's a bit like thinking of the medical system as the auto body shop. You're going there to fix your car when it's all beaten up, but they're not necessarily the one that's doing your oil change or teaching you defensive driving. That's up to you, right? You need to go somewhere else. And that's what these kind of programs are. So another question, is there an age limit? And is the metabolic system helpful for youth? Yes and yes. So it can be used in children, but we do that cautiously. I would say more youth, not children. I would, if a child was having some issues, I would do a more generic, let's follow some of the guidelines, as opposed to strictly putting them on a program, if that makes sense. But if you're talking more youth, as in like later teens and early 20s, by all means, it's helpful. 16, yep. 16 could be certainly a program that's run. And I think the oldest, not my client, most of my clients are women in their like late 40s and in their 50s and 60s, kind of pretty much, you know, the Fab at 50 crew. But I know a friend's mom, like one of my coach colleagues, her mom went on it at 78 years old. And like, she feels like she's gained a whole decade. She's out being active, feeling healthier. Like, it's just really amazing. I'm trying to get my brother on it, but it's like, trying to deal with family on stuff. He knows what he's doing, but he definitely has all the signs of the visceral fat, and he started on the medications. But you know, it all has to be about the mindset first. People have to believe they can make a difference in their life. And that's why I was saying that it's about what are we putting in our bodies? What's our mind telling? Because our behavior is often based on unconscious or subconscious beliefs, right? Anyone have a belief around eating that if you really analyze, you're like, where the heck did that come from? Like I do. Anyone else go to bed with a little bowl of cereal on your tummy so you can sleep nicely? Like literally, that's what I did all my life. And I still sometimes do that. I'm a creature of habit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really shouldn't be eating this before I go to bed. And that's something I had to break that habit. I did not need that food at 9 or 10 o'clock at night to go to bed on. But I know when I'm stressed, I sometimes catch myself doing it. It's like, I don't do that. I actually just go, okay, what have I learned from this? What's going on in my life if this is what I'm reaching for? So that's where kind of the mindset comes into it as well. And maybe I need to engage in a different stress management practice. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, absolutely. For those of you that can actually type in the chat or want to say out loud, can you share what's your biggest takeaway from today? I'd love, because I'm seeing lots of nodding heads and people engaged. And I really love that tonight it has been educational for you and inspiring and hopefully empowering. So I'd love to just hear. And if you feel more comfortable sending it privately, you can just click my name privately as well. You know what? Thank you. That fat burn is turned off when insulin is turned on. I'm going to add that as a slide in the presentation. I think that's a really important one. Surprised about eating only 3 times a day. I know. I was absolutely that. We are going back to the 3 square meals a day and what our grandparents did. And there was less obesity then. Yeah, big one that you're not alone. Oh my God, no. We have such shared experience in this community, whether it be hormones, whether it be dealing with aging parents, like just crazy. That sleep is a possibility. Absolutely. Sleep is a possibility, partly for what we're eating and partly for what I bring into the program with the stress management. I'm a certified sound practitioner and I bring in the frequencies of Tibetan bowls and tuning forks and other ways that allow the body to relax so that people have tools that, you know, I really don't mind whatever, so we say tool or practice you use for your stress management. I just like to share ones that I know are super effective as well. Believe in yourself. Oh, I love that one. That one's beautiful. Did I miss any? Yeah, that there's hope. Absolutely. That is my goal. There's always hope. I really believe that there is always room for healing in some capacity. And it's a matter of coming up with what is the right strategy for you. All righty. Okay, well, you guys are amazing. We wound up on the hour and I said I would stay extra for any questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? No. Are we getting the recording? Yes, we are. As long as the recording does everything it's supposed to be, I will be sending out the recording to everyone that registered. And again, I'm happy to speak to anyone. And in fact, if people want to sign off, I'm happy to stay on. If somebody really feels like they want to ask something a little more private or whatever, just stay on. I'm going to stay here until everybody is signed off. And you're welcome, everyone that's saying thank you. I really appreciate you being here tonight. And I'm looking forward to talking to each and every one of you. Oh, hearts. Okay, let's everybody do a heart. Here we go. Hearts. There we go. Love that. Yay. We're filling it all up with hearts. Oh, you're welcome. You're most welcome. Great. Thank you. I'm seeing that people are texting me. That's great. That is great. I think the slots are going to open up fast. And if I run out, I'll look at opening some more the following week. But I am going to be going on holidays. Bye, Myrna. See you tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? No, Friday. I'm jump ahead a whole day there.
Eager beaver.
I almost scared you there. Going, what?
Yeah, what? Okay, see ya.
Beautiful. Excellent. Oh yes, Facebook Messenger, great way to reach me. Ah, that is beautiful. It's not all my fault. I love that one. You're right. It's not. Hormones gone crazy. Fantastic. So if you haven't signed off yet, if you have a question, feel free to ask or send it privately, quietly, and I won't say who sent it. Michelle, it's so good to see you. It's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, you're welcome to unmute. We just got a few people here. Did you guys have any other questions? There we go. Excellent. Yeah, that's a big one. The fat burn is turned off when insulin is on. I'm definitely going to share that one a lot. Beautiful. Oh, Connie, nice to see you. Sort of. I can't see your picture though.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Did you have a specific question?
Yeah, thank you for your phone number and your email address.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you when I have the opportunity. There's questions I want to ask. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Yep. And it's great if we hop on a call, but if you're more comfortable sending some questions in an email, that's fine too. We'll see how we can work that out and support you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, take care, Connie.
Yeah, you too. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
You
Bye.
too, Connie. Bye.
Bye.
And Michelle, how about you, my darling?
Oh, well, it's so nice to see you. You too, Sandy.
Good to see you,
Yeah.
Michelle.
Big hugs all around for
Yes,
both of us.
I give
Right?
you a big hug.
Nola, we were all in a personal development course together. God, how many years ago was that?
It's a little while. Yeah, I know.
A little while.
Shorter
Yeah.
than I think.
Yeah.
Because it felt like
Oh, did I lose her?
by the time we were done our 6 months.
Yes.
Am I
Yeah,
back?
that's true.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you froze for a moment. I
Okay.
think that was it.
Do you want me to
Yeah.
stop the recording?
Yes, we should stop the recording. Sorry, or I can.